Hey, Andrew here. Welcome back to another episode of Studio Time. Today we're going to be talking about recording drums, but specifically I'm going to do two things. I'm going to show you a trick that you can use if you are in a home studio or in a studio that is in a house when recording drums to get a really exciting big room sound on the drums. And second, I'm going to actually talk about the room sound and why the heck it matters. Also, we'll take a look at how I'm using this technique in my studio here in this house setup with 2 bedrooms. And then we'll listen to the recording and show you how I use this technique in the context of a song, which the song we're gonna be doing is Karma Police by Radiohead. It's great sounds. It's gonna be fun. All right, so I'm gonna show you the setup and how we're recording the drum room's sounds and the drums in general in this studio. But first I wanna point out this studio is actually in a house. Each room we're in is a bedroom. And if you are working in a bedroom studio, just know that you can do it and you can get great sounds, and I'm gonna show you. So let's take a walk over to where the drums are actually set up. So as I said, this is a house. We're basically going from bedroom to bedroom here. We've got 2 other bedrooms down here. The drums are in this bedroom. This is another booth that we have. And I gotta tell you, when I first took over this house and decided to turn it into the studio, this room used to be my kid's music room studio, and he played drums in here. It's a regular box room. We got parallel walls. I think there's actually 9-foot ceilings in here. And the room sounded just absolutely terrible. It's actually like hurt your ears to hear drums in here. So what we did was we did some very practical acoustic treatment. We've got Music City Acoustics here is a Nashville company. They did these panels on the wall, which are basically absorption panels. In every other panel, we have these scatter face diffusers on the front, and then we put some thinner panels across the ceiling. But next point, this room is the size of a bedroom. So I don't know, there's like maybe 10 feet here, maybe 11, and that's like 9. So this is not a big room. So as far as like the sounds we're able to get in this studio or in this particular room, it is a pretty limited and specific sound. You know, it's a very controlled sound. So you have to get creative if you want to actually capture that sound in an interesting way. So what I'm doing is we've got the kit here, and we have close mics, of course, on the drum kit, overheads above it, and then back here you can see I have this ribbon mic here, which I'm keeping essentially over my shoulder. This is a really cool, basically drummer's perspective way to mic the entire kit. And this is a ribbon, so we're figure 8 here, and it's just pointed straight, basically straight down. So we're getting a little bit of rejection of the cymbals, but we're getting, you know, some of the room and then some of the kit here. So this is one way that you can mic the drum kit or the room. There's a lot of different ways that you could capture this space, even though it's a small room. Obviously you could do a single mic or stereo, multiple mics, and try a bunch of different positions. But the sound of this room is gonna sound like the same room that the drums are in. One trick we used to do back in East West, even when we were in really big rooms, is we would bring a baffle like that one over there, and we would separate the drum kit from the mics we were using on the room. And that basically just acts as a complete block of all the direct transients. And then you're recording this sound around it, which is the actual room sound. So that is a really interesting way to capture the room if you're in the same room with the drums. And you can do that like up high or down low. It sounds really cool, especially if you have like a linoleum floor or concrete floor. Putting the mics down low and blocking the direct transients from the kit is a great way to capture it. Again, for this example, we've got close mics and then the ribbon over the shoulder. Now I'm gonna show you the technique that I think is so cool, and when I discovered it, it like totally changed what I was able to get with the space I have. So we're leaving that room that the drums are in and coming into another room. This is basically the technique, which is putting the mic outside of the room that the drums are in. So this is just another bedroom. This room has much less acoustic treatment in it, so it's a little more live sounding. It's not a perfect room, square room. We've got a rug in here. This gobo's just sitting here. So I put these room mics up here. So this is maybe not the coolest and most interesting setup for stereo room mics. It's a stereo pair on a little bar and on one stand. And this is literally just a practical setup. The reason it's set up like this is it's one stand and I can just move it around and hear the spaces. We've swapped out microphones. The character of the mic can change the sound quite drastically as well. So obviously if you're using ribbons versus condensers, that's gonna change how the room sound is going to blend with the close mics on the drums. But generally, the concept here is taking the room mics out of the room that the drums are in and putting them in another space. We could have done the hallway. I picked this room because I didn't want cables in the hall, and I already had lines ran in this room. A couple other ways that you could do it is you could just do different stereo positions within the room. We could do a wider space pair. I could put them on 2 separate stands, which would probably be pretty cool, create a much wider stereo sound. And then you could also do different positions like ORTF or Blumline or XY. The options are sort of endless. At the end of the day, when we're doing sessions, we kind of don't have a ton of time to mess around with stuff. So it's get some mics on there, pull it up, see how it sounds with the drums, maybe try condensers or something, and then move on and record the song. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna use this setup with these. These are SEVR1s, by the way. These are very reasonably priced ribbon mics. If you're trying to get ribbons on drums, this is probably the best bang for your buck that you can get. These sound great, and we'll take a listen to them. One other cool thing you can do is literally just use the door and how much it's open or closed to essentially act as an EQ. I'll usually close this just a little bit, and then I'll also close this a little bit. And then these essentially act like low pass, high pass filters by just opening or closing the door. The more close it is, the more you basically just low passed that. You're not getting any of those transients. It's gonna be very boomy, separate room sound. And then the more you open them, the more high frequency, mid-range information you're gonna get. So I'm gonna keep them kind of split and we'll hear how it sounds. But that's a cool trick to use if you're using separate spaces. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna record the drums with this setup so you can hear what it sounds like. I'm going to do the Radiohead Karma Police song and use this kit. This is the Ludwig Fab 3, 14 by 22, 13 and 16 inch toms. This is exactly as is out of the box. Haven't messed with anything. Clear heads on toms, and we're gonna use this black beauty on the snare. So hopefully it sounds pretty awesome. Okay, so now you've seen what the drum setup looks like. Let's take a listen to our recording here. I'm gonna just play it in context so you can hear the drums as they're intended to be with the other instruments here in the session. Okay, so I have 2 primary contributors to the sound of the drum room going on here. The first is the mic that I showed you in the room with the drums, which is the ribbon mic that's just over the shoulder while I'm playing. And that's capturing a much closer sound of the room. And then the other mics are in the other room, which are essentially the big stereo far rooms. As I mentioned before in the beginning of this video, the room sound is an absolutely huge contribution to the end sound that you get. It also really helps to have a outcome, a goal that you are shooting for, so you know sort of what you want, and then you can take steps to get that. In this case, the goal was to get a sort of epic, compressed, almost overly bombastic room sound, but we're in bedrooms. That's why we're trying this technique here. So I'm again gonna play in context with the other instruments. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna remove the room so you can hear what an impact that has. So here it is in context with the rooms. Okay, now I'm gonna mute the room mics. So as you can tell, makes a very big difference in the emotion and the feeling of the song overall. Let's listen to it soloed now, and I'll do the same thing where we listen to the drums, all the mics, and then we will get rid of the room mics and just hear the close mics, and then we'll add them back in. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to compare the two different room sounds, how I have them processed. So the other thing is I'm actually doing things to these recorded room mics in the mix. So we'll listen to it how it's intended to be heard, and then we'll remove that so you can hear what the actual raw mics sounded like in the recording. All right, so for the first mic, let's listen to the over-the-shoulder mic that's in the same room as the drums. This is capturing the transients from the drums. As you can tell, it sounds totally nuts. That's because of what I'm doing to the mic. But let's jump over to the stereo room mics that are in the other room and hear what that sounds like. So that is the much more live sounding big room sound, which is literally, it's in another room, completely separated from the drum transients. So we'll listen to the ribbon mic over the shoulder, totally dry with no processing on it, and then I'll show you what I did to it. Great sound, nice and clean. Not too compressed. There's no compression, by the way. If you're curious, this is just the mic hitting a mic pre, going straight in. All of the craziness that's happening to this is happening post-recording. So I'll show you what I'm doing to it is a combination of EQ. First thing I'm doing is I'm removing some of the low frequencies that are building up with a EQ here. And I'm doing a little bit of compressing some certain frequencies here. It looks like around 3K and then the low mids on it, just barely. And then there's two main things that are happening to this mic that are contributing to the sound. Technically three things actually. So the first and the biggest is this transient designer. Now they have plugin versions of this, and it does work with the plugin version as well. I'm using the SPL TD4, Transient Designer 4, going through one channel. I have it as a hardware insert, so when I play it back on here, I can insert it like this. So this is without the Transient Designer. And with it, so that's the craziness. I'm essentially removing all of the attack, the transient, just pulling it all the way out. And I'm basically taking the two knobs and turning them exact opposite. Pulling up the sustain all the way and removing all of the attack. Again, this is without it. It gives it this like intense energy that sort of makes it seem like a bigger room, even though it's not a big room, and it's actually pretty dead sounding in that room. Kind of reverses the sound in a way. The next huge contribution to this sound is this Devil Lock from Sound Toys. I'm sure you guys have seen this before. If not, it is an audio level destroyer. So we're gonna turn the speakers down a little bit on this, but this is what it sounds like with the Devil Lock on it. It sounds like an answering machine recording or something that is just totally destroyed, which was super cool. So next after that, we're using the multi-band compressor to sort of tame the high end. But really, it's the transient designer, the Devil Lock, and then I just have a G-Bus compressor after it to kind of keep everything even with it, because it's up and down with our attack and sustain here, and this just sort of like balances it out. So between all of that, this is the end result with everything. Some would call this a trash mic. That's essentially, it sounds like trash. But that sounds super cool. So if we add in the close mics with this crush mic, this is what it sounds like. And if I take it out, so that is actually a huge part of the sound, and that's just the mic in the room. The objective of that is to basically fill all of the space in between, you know, the actual hits of the drums. It's keeping that space like moving, so it just sounds more interesting. Big part of the sound, as you can tell. Okay, so here's the stereo rooms with all of the processing on, and then I'll show you what I did. And I'm going to show you the same thing. I'm going to add in the other close mics with it. So this is a much more natural version of what the other mic is doing. It's filling in some of that space. It's way further from the kit, so the actual transients that are being captured in that room are much later than the rest of the kit. So it does have this cool ebb and flow with the close mics, which sounds really nice. So without it. Let's see what's happening on this chain. I've got an EQP1 Pultec, which is basically just attenuating. I'm not boosting anything on it. It's just taming the top at 10K a little bit and the bottom at 100K. The main part of this sound is a combination of this Zener limiter and the multi-band compressor taming some of the top. So this Zener limiter is on limit mode, and it's crushing pretty hard if I had to guess. Let's bypass everything on here. A fantastic clean room sound. We're only hearing the room mics. So if we add in close mics, that's what it sounds like. And that's a nice, safe, and good recording that you can have some fun with on the back end on the mix and sort of find whatever is sitting right in the song. Because at the end of the day, as much fun as it is to do this in solo, it's got to work with the rest of the song or it's a totally pointless endeavor. So I've got the EQP on there, and then the Zener limiter, I'll bypass that. We'll listen to it in solo, and I'll keep it off, then I'll turn it on and we'll hear what happens. So this is without it. Out. In. So just sounds way more fun, way more exciting. And then the multi-band compressor with it, just taming it a little bit. All that extra harshness is just being cut down a little bit. And then with the close mics, and lastly, with the mono kit mic, right, so I'm gonna jump in here because if you have never used room mics on drums before, I just wanted to do a little small segment, a small Sweetwater segment on what room mics you should consider if you've never used room mics on drums, or if you're curious about trying something different. Let's do this. I'm gonna pull up sweetwater.com and we're going to find in the next 60 seconds some good options. And let's put a limitation on it. Let's do under 1,200 bucks. Okay, the first ones that pop into my head are the SE VR1s, which are what I'm using out there. Look at that. 400 bucks for one. So two of them, 800 bucks. You get a stereo pair. Obviously you need some cables. All right, the next one, let's do, the first one that pops in my head is the WA14s. You can get the stereo pair. Oh boy, hold on. WA14, stereo pair, boom. 414 clones, $749 for the pair. These are incredible. These are modeled after the EB 414 circuit. Sound excellent. Those are condensers and ribbons. Also, don't sleep on just regular SM57s on room mics. Those sound really great. Let's do one more. Under 1,200 bucks, Beyer Dynamic M160 ribbons. These are 800 each, so those don't work. But these are the mics that they used on Led Zeppelin's When the Levee Breaks to get that drum sound. And I believe they just used these in a tape slap. So you can get a pretty crazy room sound with those. Last one, final one is in mono, and I would do the WA44, which is a clone of the old RCA 44. This is a grand, but if you're going mono and you want to get a big fat darker ribbon sound, I would go with this. I'll put links to these down in the description. Thank you, Sweetwater, for sponsoring this video. Now back to the video. Okay, so again, as much fun as this is, if it doesn't work with the song, there's no point. And so it's really helpful before you start picking mics, before you start trying tricks you've seen, make sure you're doing the right thing for the song. Try to have an understanding and a vision for the song you're working on, and then make the mic placement and moves and direction that you need to accomplish that. It makes it infinitely more fun because theoretically you know what the heck you're doing. Yeah, otherwise, you know, these are somewhat unprocessed. I mean, the kick drum has a high pass filter on it, an 1176, barely touching it, and an E channel. It's just, that kick drum sounds big and bombastic, and the rooms, what we're doing on the back end is just sort of like enhancing it to get it up to that sort of emotion or attitude or whatever. And it's really cool in this song because the chorus just is the exact opposite feel. Check it out. So you just have this yin and yang of like kind of big and chaotic energy with this intimate broken down chorus. There you have it. One thing I wanted to mention, if you're interested in learning the different techniques that you can use either in home studio or commercial studio for getting crazy drum sounds or improving your drum recordings, we're doing a drum recording workshop very soon. I have done a terrible job of promoting it. So this actually might be the first time I've mentioned it. So drum recording workshop currently scheduled. I'm just going to link it on my website. You can go to my website. It's the homepage. If you would like to come to the drum recording workshop here in the studio, we're going to do 2 full days of this crap. It's just going to be mic placement, drum swapping. We're going to learn about the drums, about the back end of everything that we can do to help you get to the end goal that you are looking for in your recordings. I'll put the link down there for that. Go check it out. So do me a favor, if you like videos like this, go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. We're gonna do a lot of recording focused content on this channel this year, specifically in the first part focused on recording live drums. So if you like that kind of thing, hit that subscribe button. And finally, I am putting together an epic drum recording course that will be available soon. I'm putting a lot of energy into it. It's going to be really in-depth and basically just give you a principle-based process that you can repeat whenever you are recording drums, so you can get the sounds that you want, whether you're referencing another record or you just have an idea in your head, that you'll be able to get it. I'm going to put a link to the wait list for that course sign up down in the description. Go check that out. There's a couple other goodies down there totally for free. If you want to check those out as well, you